which for the pre-university summer course, which part of student profile is the most important?
Okay, so when you're looking at making the application, the personal statement is really something that needs to be at the very sort of the top of the agenda with regards time invested in the application, okay? Because you're already at school, you're already achieving grades and so on and so forth. So the personal statement is the thing that you will spend quite a lot of time writing. What we look for in a personal statement is very varied. We're not just looking for your academic skills, we also want to know about all projects that you've worked on and so on. We want to know about things that you've also achieved away from a classroom setting. Okay, so if you've done some volunteer work or you've done some sort of charity work, this is stuff that we're really interested in hearing about. We want to know if you're taking part in different athletic teams, if you're at school and you're on the hockey team or you play football. Things like this we really want to hear about as well. If you're involved in things like theatre performances at school or even outside of school, this is something we want to know about. If you play a musical instrument, okay, all of these different things are showing us of different types of skills that you have. Okay, we are really interested in your skill set. It's a very different type of application to what you would do if you were applying to the US. In the US, generally speaking, the application will be more focused around these extracurriculars, and you wouldn't really talk about the academic side of things. In the UK, it's very different because that's why we have shorter degree programs, because you don't have that standard 4-year model for an undergrad or a 2-year model for a master, where the first year is you taking majors and minors and trying out different subjects and maybe polishing your academic skills. In the UK, our bachelor program is 3 years and our master program is only 1 year. So from the very first day that you study, you are doing the subject that you have applied to. So day one, if you come to do economics, guess what you will learn on day one? You will learn economics, okay? So for that reason, the application process is very different, and we are very much interested in the range of things that you do away from the classroom, but also the academic stuff as well. We're really interested in that because after all, when you come to university, you're doing it to get a very good education. Okay, so we need to know about the education that you've had thus far. What you don't need to mention when you do this personal statement for the summer school, what you don't need to mention are the grades and the subjects that you've taken. Okay, because we will see which grades and we will see the grades that you've taken that you've achieved, and we will see the subjects that you've taken because they come earlier in the application. Okay, so you don't need to waste extra time and effort justifying to us, well, I've done this in maths and these are the grades that I've achieved in maths, so this is why I should get onto the maths summer school, this is why I want to take it. You don't need to say that because we've seen those grades earlier in the application form. Okay, what we're really interested in, I like to use a phrase to explain how to make a competitive application, which is super curricular. Okay, and by super curricular, this refers to things that you might do outside of the classroom that is relevant to the subject that you're going to be applying to. Okay, so bear with me because it's kind of like an extracurricular, but it's relevant to the subject. Okay, so a really good example of a super curricular activity might be if you play the violin and you want to be, maybe, I don't know, you want to do, eventually one day you want to do medicine by doing the biology summer school at King's College London, or you want to do dentistry and again you pick the biology pathway. You have to be good with your hands, okay? You have to have good manual dexterity. So if you play the violin, I imagine you're pretty good with your hands. That can be translated as being a super curricular activity. Likewise, if you are interested in, let's say, studying something like fine art, okay? King's College London don't offer fine art, so this is a general example. But if you're interested in fine art, and you've won awards or you've done exhibitions in the past with your work and your portfolio, that's a super curricular activity because it's so relevant to the subject. And another example might be if you are applying to study history, okay, and you've helped and done some volunteer work in the local museum, okay, or you've worked in the tourism sector or something like that. Again, that's a super curricular activity. What you might realise is that, or what you might not realise initially, is that you probably already have a good number of supercurricular activities that you haven't yet realised are supercurricular activities. Okay, so what I would suggest when you're making the application is to get a big piece of A3 paper or get some flip chart paper from school and some marker pens, and I would write under each header. So I would have a header for academic stuff that I'm proud of. Then I would have another header that would be extracurriculars, and then another one for supercurriculars, and then I would have hobbies and interests. And what you'll eventually be able to do when you've written them all down, you'll be able to connect them and make them all relevant to this. Maybe not make all of them relevant, because there might be some, for example, I did a politics degree, but me doing swimming at school wasn't really relevant to the study of politics, okay? So that was more an extracurricular that I would include. But for example, if another one I've just thought of is if you want to do any kind of health program, whether that's pharmacy or physiotherapy or medicine or anything like that, and you're the soccer team first aider, okay? Again, that's something that's super curricular, because you're showing a natural interest in the subject. You've actively pursued experience in the field before you even applied to university. So that's showing us that extra commitment to your subject area. Okay, so what I'm saying is you probably already have these and you don't yet realise that they are supercurricular activities. So it's a case of just mapping out all of these ideas and all of these different activities and skills that you have to be able to make a very consistent and a very persuasive piece of writing that demonstrates and showcases all of these great things about you personally that are going to be of interest to the university.